Post time with Bobby G, Mary Rappolini, and Chris
We're ready for the
Crestek.
start.
Post time. I'm Felix Taverna. I'm looking forward to a great run for the Kentucky Derby. Post time. We'll get you there. We'll tell you every inch of track that we have to lay down in order to get to the winning post time.
As they arrive into the fatal furlong.
They're off.
Post time.
Drive, and they're into the stretch. We're coming down to the wire.
We produce it from 50 Way Studios in Toledo, Ohio. I'm Felix Taverna. Post time. Can't wait.
Hey, we welcome you on this big week leading up to three major prep races, the Florida Derby, the Arkansas Derby, and the UAE Derby, just 38 days away from the Run for the Roses, the first Saturday in May, the best 2 minutes in all of sports. And we go live into Oaklawn Park to check in with Daily Racing Form correspondent Mary Rappolini. A top of the day to you, Mary. Welcome to Post Time.
Thank you, Felix. We've got a really big weekend coming up here at Oaklawn and supposed to have really good temperatures all week. So I would look for a fast track for the Arkansas Derby on Saturday.
How does the lineup compare to the Rebel? The Rebel winner opts not to run in the Arkansas Derby. Is that my understanding?
In talking to Todd Pletcher this week, he's likely to run Class President, the Rebel winner, back in the Bluegrass. That was earlier this week. And the Todd Pletcher barn has another horse, Renegade, who probably will be the favorite on Saturday in the Arkansas Derby. And part of his ownership, Oaklawn is their home track, the Lowe's.
Mary Rappolini joining us from Oaklawn Park on Post Time. What about the winner out of the Rebel, Silent Tactic? I know that he got an incredible trip in the Rebel with Christian Torres and Mark Cassie. I do believe those are the connections. And one of my favorite colts on the trail will be wheeled right back into the Arkansas Derby, Mary, and that is Litmus Test. What about these two?
Yeah, both very much leading contenders here. They're both horses that I believe physically and based on their form that will want this 1.1 miles distance. We're moving to 1.1 miles for the Arkansas Derby. So all these horses are picking up distance. And Litmus Test is the type of individual, according to his trainer, Bob Baffert, his build and how he's trained, that he's really going to want this 1.1 miles. And the same can be said for Silent Tactic. Trainer Mark Cassie feels the same way. So I think they both are chief contenders here. Silent Tactic has been really very consistent in this entire Oaklawn series. And, he deserves a lot of credit for that. Whoever has come in and run against him, he's been right there every time. So
we talk about the trail to the Kentucky Derby running through Oaklawn Park. In your estimation, you've been doing this a long time. You're a pro. You know the ins and outs of the road and all these prep races to the Kentucky Derby. Would you grade this a strong Arkansas Derby to years past, or maybe not so strong?
well, I think Renegade brings a lot of strength to the field, Felix. He's been a horse that's run well against Paladin. In fact, he won his maiden over Paladin, but was disqualified for interference. So he actually has finished in front of Paladin, and then he was second to Paladin in the Remsen. So this is a horse I think a lot of people are excited about, Renegade, and that gives the race strength. Litmus Test, he's the type of horse that can put up buyer speed figures in the high 90s. He had already established himself last year as a young prospect for this Derby trail, winning the Los Al Futurity to wrap up his season going 1 mile and a 16th. And again, he's the type of horse that the best appears to be in front of him. And he's already, like I said, putting up buyers in the high 90s. So he's adds to that strength. And Silent Tactic is a beautiful horse that is developed right along here, right when you want to see him coming to hand for trainer Mark Cassie. And he's a horse that's going to want distance and come running through the stretch. And then I think Blackout Time, you know, he was second to champion Ted Nafi in the Breeders' Futurity last year, showed where he fit in the class. So there is some strength here. And I think a lot's going to get sorted out of pecking order a little bit among those horses Saturday.
Getting a little breakup here, but what about Napoleon Solo? He comes out of the Champagne. He's got front running speed. He looks like the beat, a speed of the speed. And I think that pace is going to make the race. What have you heard about Napoleon Solo?
Yeah, that's a good question, Felix. My colleague, David Grenning, has reported that Napoleon Solo is going to scratch. He was supplemented to this race, but he's going to scratch, and they're going to focus on the Wood Memorial back east. So will come out. And another item your listeners might want to know, two things here. Redland Rebels, who is entered in the Florida Derby as well, he's going to run in Arkansas, according to his trainer, Patrick Biancone. And then Bricklin, who's a speed horse, he's entered in the Thursday Stakes at Oaklawn, but he's going to run Saturday here in the Arkansas Derby, according to his trainer, Rudy Brissett. So there's kind of some movement with the race, Felix, that way.
What do we expect in weather type conditions for Saturday's big Arkansas Derby?
Great weather, sunny skies, high 70s.
And what about the point systems and the allotment for the winner? Is this a 150-25 type of race?
That's right, Felix. Yep, it'll be 100 to the winner. And just as you broke it down, the top five, yes, will get lesser. So
While I have you here, do you feel anything about the other big prep race that will be run on Saturday, and that is the Florida Derby down at Gulfstream Park? Can you share anything with us in regard?
yeah, that's going to be a good race. Just one thing, like we expect the Redland Rebels horse to come out of the Florida Derby. Just so folks know, I think Commandment's probably a pretty exciting horse. And Todd Pletcher, these 3-year-olds are coming to hand right now. He has a horse by the name of Nearly, the Holy Bull winner in there. I think a lot of people are going to be excited to see him. We last saw him in January and see what he does coming back. He's coming off, a 98 buyer speed figure, which is a very good number for a young horse in January, a 3-year-old in January. So he's probably a pretty serious horse to get excited about here, and not this time colt. And then Commandment coming off the Fountain of Youth win. I think those would be your two primary players in the wagering. And I think Chief Wallaby, he's an up and coming horse for trainer Bill Mott. People are excited about him too. So good race. It's a good race. It's not easy, the Puma, he's in there, coming off the Tampa Bay Derby. So a lot of all of the major prep winners out of Florida came back in the Florida Derby.
Yeah, I agree with you. Commandment, Chief Wallaby, the Puma, as you mentioned, Nearly coming from the Todd Pletcher barn. Todd Pletcher has won this race 8 times, 6 with the services of Johnny Velasquez. And finally, I will take you over into Europe. The UAE Derby. I was looking at this race, and you have them coming from all over Japan, France, all in Eastern Europe. And you talk about speed. This race is 100, 60, 30, and 15. The point allotment. And there is a colt in here. Actually, there's 3 colts that I've been keeping my eye open to. One is Pyromancer. He's from Japan. And then the other is Go Man. And the final one is Six Speed. And you talk about speed in this race. Have you kept an eye, or can you share any information regarding the runners in the UAE Derby?
And not. I can't say that I do know a whole lot about it. I mean, I know it's coming up, and I like your assessment of the race. That makes it very interesting, because you know, they'll bring speed into the Derby if they go ahead and come over for the Derby, and it'll be interesting to see how those horses match up against the American-based colts. So it is a very intriguing race, and I think, Felix, it's kind of a race I'll stop and watch Saturday when things go for the big day. You
Yeah,
know.
without any question, that's definitely one that you will put on the back burner after you have all your fun down there at Oaklawn in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Bobby G for Mary Rappolini, our lady from the Daily Racing Form, and she has delivered big time on the Arkansas Derby, which nobody knows more about what's happening at Oaklawn Park than Mary does. She's also treated us with a little bit of Florida Derby analysis. And then she said, honestly, she'll take a peek into the UAE Derby. Any thoughts, Bobby G?
Yes, I was wondering if she had any thoughts on the races they just ran last weekend, the Jeff Ruby Stakes and the Louisiana Derby. If you had a chance to look at those races, use your expertise to understand what you saw, and do you think or feel anything with regards to how the winners or the horses that ran in those races might enter into the Derby picture?
Well, that's a great question, Bobby G. I would say one thing that stood out to me, just from my realm of what I'm reporting, uh, my market, Pavlovian ran a big second in the Louisiana Derby, and that's important for a couple things. Number one, he came into that race off the Sunland Derby, and Bricklin, who's in the Arkansas Derby, also is coming out of the Sunland Derby. So that was kind of a little boost for Bricklin's company line. He was third to Pavlovian in the Sunland Derby. And I liked the race Pavlovian ran. I liked the distance of the Louisiana Derby. Those horses have gone a good distance heading into Kentucky now. And, you know, trainer Doug O'Neill has really thought a lot of Pavlovian all along, even ahead of the Sunland Derby when I interviewed him. And I just liked the race he ran. I think he's a very interesting horse.
He's got 70 points, so unless something happens, he's going to be in the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so no, I just...
You mind if I ask you one more?
Away.
I've asked you another question. What did you think about... I was extremely impressed with Chad Brown and Flavian Pratt. I thought that if you like horse racing and you like to be entertained with horse racing, that was as exciting and entertaining. I mean, that was an awesome horse race.
It was, and we've seen, yes, it was.
I mean, it's hard. It's got to be heartbreaking for Maldonado to lose that race, but you got to tip your hat to Flavian Pratt. He's something special.
No, excellent, outstanding rider, Eclipse Award-winning rider, of course, and we'll see him dotted around the rest of the preps too. So his decisions will be very interesting, won't they? What he makes coming up to the Derby.
He's going to have some choices.
He's going to have
Without
a lot
any
of perspective.
question. And one thing about Flavian, he never goes wide, but he went wide in the Louisiana Derby and just got Pavlovian at the wire. So you never see Flavian. Very seldom do you see him. You see him go wide. And
Felix, can I ask you a question, Felix? Because you watch as much horse racing as anybody alive. I was just curious. I read some commentary. Why would Jose Ortiz, who looked like he had a chance to win that race, I mean, I guess you don't like going wide, but it seemed like he hurt that horse's chances by making a sharp left-hand turn to the rail. I thought coming down the stretch, he had a shot to win that race.
Which colt are you referring to?
I have to look up the horse's name. Maybe Mary can help me. he was the horse ran third, but when they turned for home, was it Marie?
Cherie DeVoe's horse.
Yes, right.
Okay. Okay.
Can you recall that? Like when they turned for home, it didn't look like Pratt was going to go by the winner by Maldonado, and then Jose Ortiz looked like he had a real good chance to win the race. Period. And then all of a sudden, I thought he hurt the horse's chances by going to the rail. I've read some reports where he said that that was a conscious effort for him to do that, but I second guessing it. I thought that might have been a tactical error. I don't know. I was wondering whether you had any thoughts on that horse.
Yeah, I can't say that I really do have an opinion on that too much. A rider's call. He's a top class rider. He has to make a split second decision. I mean, I don't know, everything that was going on with the horse and everything. And, there's so many variables that go into decisions being made because, a horse is a live animal. It's not like
no, it just caught me by surprise watching the race. That's all.
Yeah, that's what you got to watch and study.
You do this for a living, and you look at this, and you read about it, and you write about it, and you've analyzed it. So I was just talking to both you and Felix, who've seen as more horse races than any two people alive. It just caught me by surprise. I don't know if he wins, but I definitely think that hurt his chances. That was just my observation.
The nice thing is you may be able to benefit from that at the windows next time, your opinions. That's what's important. That's what's great is how we all see things sometimes differently and can benefit from it if we're correct,
There's no question about that. The smart horse players, they go to film and they replay these races and they run it back and they run it back and they run it back. I personally think the $64,000 question is, who will Irad Ortiz ride in the Derby? He has yet to win a Derby, and I'm sure it's one of his bucket lists, probably his top I want to do, as he has not been able to get a win in the most coveted American race and winning every other. Do you think, or do you have any idea, Mary, who he might be on?
Well, I can tell you he's riding Renegade in the Arkansas Derby on Saturday. So, if Renegade steps up and performs like his morning line suggests he should, Irad may be sitting very pretty by Saturday afternoon.
So let me ask both of you a question. If Saturday was the Derby, who would your selection be upon what you have seen so far? I know we don't have any post positions or odds, but if you had to go out on the limb and make an assessment and a selection, first to you, Mary, ladies before gentlemen, who would it be on Saturday?
Well, that's a great question. I am very interested to see how Renegade runs. He's a horse that interests me. I have to say that I like Silent Tactic a lot. I like his style. I like that he's going to like the 1.25 mile distance, most likely, based on pedigree. So there's reasons I really am paying close attention to him. So,
Bobby G, who would your selection be if the Derby was this coming Saturday?
I just want to interject one quick thought. I don't think Irad Ortiz's horse that he won with this past Saturday, I don't think he's riding. I don't think that horse wins the Kentucky Derby. And I do believe, based on everything that you've discussed and everything that we've seen so far, I have a sneaking suspicion that his horse may be this horse coming up this Saturday, Renegade. I like Renegade, and I also like Mary's other selection a lot. I haven't seen enough to have a strong opinion. I don't have a lot of conviction. I'm sort of like a one-trick pony, no pun intended. I still want to see I want to see somebody be Paladin for the money. So based on everything I've seen so far, I don't want to get stuck with being stubborn, because you lose a lot of money if you're a stubborn gambler. So I want to remain as open-minded as I possibly can. But I would lean towards Renegade based on this question.
And after this weekend, we only have 4 prep races remaining, with the Bluegrass being run down at Keeneland. We have the Santa Anita Derby here at Santa Anita in Arcadia, California. And then we have the Wood Memorial back in New York. And then we have the final prep race, Lexington. And then we gear up and send the 20 point getters to Churchill Downs the first Saturday in May for the 152nd running of the Kentucky Derby. And I got to tell you, I don't know if it's just me, but I haven't gotten real excited about the Kentucky Derby yet, or about any one of the colts that might be in that starting gate. I just don't have any idea.
We got Toby.
Let's
What
go
you
to
got,
Toby
Toby?
Terrell in Southern California. He's joining us on this podcast of Post Time. Toby, Mary Rappolini from the Daily Racing Form, and Bobby G is with us. How you doing, Double T?
Felix, I'm doing great. That makes Mary a very good colleague of mine, because I'm the ace clocker for Daily Racing Form out here in California, and maybe soon to be New York.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very important info in from you.
Well, Toby has been the most respected as any clocker that ever had a stopwatch in his hand.
Yes.
I have seen him work religiously early AM to mid morning, and then do this for like 48 straight days at Del Mar. Toby, you and I were talking yesterday, and Mary and Bobby G are on with us here on podcast, and you and I have had a lot of conversations, and I think that you have voiced, or I sort of piggybacked on your sentiment. You're not too excited about this Kentucky Derby, or it hasn't really got you on the good foot. Why is that?
Well, out here in California, of course, things are generally about Bob Baffert, and when they're not about Bob Baffert, they're about Doug O'Neill. And well, Doug O'Neill has managed to claw his way into the picture again. But normally with Bob Baffert, when people are asked, well, what about who's going to win the Santa Anita Derby? People would immediately come up with a name. Now, whoever you ask will scratch their head and go, well, maybe this horse or maybe that horse. He doesn't have a horse. His horse was a horse called Brant. And Brant is no longer a factor. In fact, I wanted to raise what I think is an invaluable point there. When the last defection about 6 weeks ago went out, the AI came in and made Brant the favorite. And I told everybody that wanted to listen, this is your poster child example that AI and horse racing do not mix.
Toby, looking
Amen.
looking at the Florida Derby, the Arkansas Derby, the races that we have seen, has any one of them caught your eye?
Well, I have a very strong bias, Felix, because I did a lot of work for the Racing Forum all winter long at Palm Beach Downs, because the gentleman that was there had a massive health problem and had to basically retire. So they called me. In fact, all the crew was out for the Breeders' Cup, and we kind of wrapped it up right there. Would you be willing to fill in for him at Palm Beach? And I said, sure. I'd look forward to it. Be a great experience. Get to Palm Beach Downs, by the way, for people that don't know. That's where Todd Pletcher headquarters all winter long, and all of his big horses are there. And it was quite an experience, but it was a great experience for me because I saw a horse that right after I saw it the very first time, and then when I saw it the second time, I go, wow, this is going to be a very exciting winter. Little did I know I got spoiled rotten by getting to see a horse called Nearly. And this horse was just a freak to me. I called Mike Welch. I said, Mike, what's up with this horse? how come I haven't heard about this horse? Where's this horse been laying in the weeds? And the rest is history. The storybook horse, a big article in DRF about him today. I read a very good article. And we don't know how good he is. We know one thing. He's won his last 3 races by over 20 lengths.
And I think
That's
you'll
very
have
interesting.
a lot of speed to chase as well, because I think there's an ample amount of speed in this Florida Derby, which we talked about with the Puma, with Commandment, with Chief Wallaby, and nearly as you were not on yet, I mentioned that Todd Pletcher has won this Florida Derby 8 times, and he has a jockey named John Velazquez that's been on his winners 6 times. And I think, to me, that's a pretty strong jockey trainer combination. Mary Rappolini, would you like to ask Toby Terrell a question? I guess not.
You give. Hi, Felix. A
You
lot of
take
great
it away.
feedback from
If I
Toby.
hear your voice, it brings a big smile to my face.
I thought we lost her.
No,
Any
no.
question
No,
for
I'm
Go
Toby
ahead, go
Terrell?
ahead, Mary.
I think the general public would like to hear your thoughts on workouts. What you like? What do you like to see? And how important is their final workout? I mean, their final work into a race. Just your thoughts on clocking all this time. What lights you up? What do you say? Why do you say nearly special?
Well, nearly is special just because the horse just seems to have it all at this point of the game. Now, the question is, this is the big, massive step. He's got to prove that he's got it all now with a class level of horses that he hasn't really faced yet. So we're going to find out Saturday in the Florida Derby. Now, as far as the question at hand, I think in the case of this broadcast and this show, we're talking about the Kentucky Derby. As a clocker and having been blessed enough to be at the Kentucky Derby for several years and actually lived back at Churchill Downs for a couple of seasons, and, commissing with all the boys there, the colleagues, the clockers, and even beyond the clockers, it's a very well-known axiom that the Kentucky Derby winner will show himself off or herself off to you the minute he steps on the track, perhaps Derby week. And that doesn't necessarily mean a workout. It means the appearance. It means the horse is showing off a physique, an attitude, a poise, a confidence. The name that comes to mind, since it happened to be a year I was there, was Big Brown. When he stepped out on the track, everybody knew he was going to be your winner. All the sharp.
Right.
I'll tell you what, Mary, the game has changed tremendously. It changes by the day, quite honestly. And we're no longer down to looking at a workout per se in a certain way or seeing something. I will tell you this. I'll digress a little bit. The answer to your question, and it's very unique right now, because I'm going to tell you, in my estimation, perhaps the most brilliant horse we have, most brilliant 3-year-old that is in training right now, is a horse that's only run 1 time. And it's he broke his maiden very late in the game, so he would have to really buck every trend of history. But the connections are going to ship him out of California and run, I believe, in New York. And he's trained by Bob Baffert, and his name is Crude Velocity. Crude Velocity had an absolutely brilliant workout. In fact, the most brilliant workout I've seen from any 3-year-old, bar none. Now, that's a workout.
Wow.
That's a workout
Sure.
now, okay?
Right.
But then, here's what you do. Go and watch that horse's race, and you will see not only did he have a brilliant workout, he had a brilliant debut win that you don't see too often. I was tearing up my tickets 3 different times going, oh, boy, well, here we go again. next time. He got in so much trouble 3 different times in the race. He was on the rail. It was a scintillating win. And that horse has untapped, maybe freakish ability. The question is, what now? Is it too late for him to enter the picture? Nobody's really talking about it. I know the owner said they're going to ship him out of California. Bob Baffert will still train the horse. But as far as all the rest of the Derby contenders, I mean, Nearly is my horse just because I've been watching him work out regularly. I've seen his brilliance in many forms in his workouts, his gallop outs especially. And by the way, the mother of Nearly was purchased by a longtime friend of mine and Felix, longtime member of our radio shows through the decades, a guy named Larry Zapp. And so I kind of have to say, is this meant to be with Nearly? And we're going to find out.
I thought this was a brilliant. Go right ahead, Mary.
Oh no, that's a fun conversation, Toby. Just looking at what might come, what's ahead of us. That's the eternal hope, I guess, we have in racing. You really put it very well, and what to be excited about and look forward to.
Anytime we can't keep Mary Rappolini quiet, we are extremely happy on post time. We want to hear every word she says, and that was a brilliant question. Bobby G for Toby Terrell, you might pose a question to him.
Toby, I don't know you personally, but I'd have to say that there's not a human being that's ever walked into a racetrack in Southern California that doesn't know who you are, because they are quick to purchase an item that you've been printing for all these years. And I actually, in my earlier life, I was pretty friendly with Gary Young. So that was my first hands-on experience with, your professional acumen and skills. But this is my question to you. I haven't seen or spoken to Gary in a long time, and I always think about him. In all the years you've been doing this, nobody has watched, observed, or analyzed more horses and more horse racing than someone like yourself. So the average person walks through a racetrack and they're trying to figure out who they want to wager on or who they want to bet on. If you had a choice of giving one piece of advice to a person who was considering making a wager, what angle, or if it's possible to narrow it down, is there one angle that you sort of feel is the one that sticks in your mind, is the one that's the most critical in trying to determine what's going to happen in a race?
Yeah, well, first off, Gary Young, I believe it or not to date myself, but I will anyway. I sat with Gary Young when he first came out to California when I was about 14 years old, which is about 47 years ago. In the grandstand at Del Mar, we sat together for a few summers, and he's a couple of years ahead of me. I'm kind of playing catch up in a few different departments, believe it or not, after doing this for 40 years. But I'm a scientist at heart, and I study to a fault every single day, every piece of data that I can watch. And I've told everybody from day one, I learned if I was going to support a family and be blessed enough to have 3 beautiful kids that are now 33, 30, and 23, I'm not going to do it as a clocker. I've got to have more in the arsenal. I've got to have more tools in the tool chest. And I developed those tools one day at a time now for decades. And I'll tell you this, I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm kind of peaking, tell you the truth, in my career because of the fact of my relationship with Daily Racing Form. The database that I now use with them, I now input all my own data. I never did that before. And it's really given me a new passion, a tremendous passion to be able to see all my work in a chronology. And I will say, and no pride, no ego, my spiritual beliefs won't allow me to have any of that, especially the older I get. But I will tell you, if you want your best chance to win at the racetrack, you purchase the Clocker Report from Daily Racing Form, look for the B pluses, and then look for trainers that are doing well, that are holding a hot hand at the meet. And I will assure you, you will cash not only tickets throughout the year, you'll cash on some prices too. Crude Velocity is the poster child of that. 10-1 we got on that horse.
Let me jump in and say that
price.
let me jump in and say that years ago, Chobe used to do the workouts for his uncles, the Baedeker report. It would be a pink sheet. And so I compiled all the pink sheets every single day and kept a little notebook of them. And when these horses would run back, I'd go back to that certain day to see what Toby had on that given day, as well as the current day that this equine was running. And on this one given day, I was up at the old OTB, or at the racetrack, the old Delmar racetrack, which was the first year, 1989, that was used as an OTB because off track betting was ratified in California. And I looked at the pink sheets, and it had a colt, a horse named Marshall Law, was running in the Santa Anita handicap, and his odds were at least 90-1. And Toby Terrell had an A plus workout on the pink sheet. Toby, that had to be your biggest score at that time.
Well, boy, oh boy, that seems like dinosaur age, Felix, and it is for the most part. But I'll tell you, there's more to that story. Again, anybody out there listening, this is the greatest game in the world. It's my grandfather raised me in it, my dad, my uncles, and anybody that learns enough about this game will see what I'm talking about on many, many levels. But the people side of the game I've been blessed to be in, and Julio Canani was the trainer of that horse. And at the time, I was kind of in Julio's posse with a couple other clockers and myself. We'd see him at the races and go out to dinner. And I'll never forget a big, beautiful black stallion of a horse. And the first time I did see him, I go, wow, that got chills. I go, who the heck is that horse? And Julio, is anybody that knows Julio Canani knows, he wasn't exactly forthright with the truth on many occasions. I said, who was that black horse, Julio? I mean, where did this horse come from? Oh, you don't want to know about that horse. I said, oh, yes, I do. Oh, no, you don't want to know about that horse. I said, yes, I do. Who is that horse, Julio? Finally, I choked it out of him. Oh, okay, it's Marshall Law. Anyway, the rest was history. Boy, oh boy, that does bring back distant memories. But, the beauty of the game, guys and gals, those memories are made every day. Even though the Kentucky Derby to me this year looks like, nobody really has a horse that they're excited about, doesn't mean you can't cash a big ticket.
Toby, let me ask you this. I will piggyback off of Mary Rappolini's question, but do you look for trainer patterns that they employ in conditioning a colt, a filly, leading up to the Kentucky Derby? Is there any past performances that you look at and you'll say, well, Pletcher likes to utilize this type of pattern, and the separation of days between workouts and the distances of workouts? Are those days long and gone, or do you still keep that in your side pocket?
Well, Felix, the trainers are they are not victims, but they are controlled strictly by how talented a horse is. Now, let's use the great recent example of Justify. Justify was a horse that when he first came to Santa Anita from Los Alamitos and stepped on the track, you go, who is this massive, big, gorgeous specimen of a horse? So, so Bob Baffert doesn't have anything close to a Justify. So he's got to train these horses much differently than he did a Justify. A great athlete and a great horse, you don't even need to really train them per se. You just need to make sure nothing happens to them, quite honestly. I see that time and time again, even now in the modern age. The great horses, that's the beauty of the game, is where does the tremendous God-given will and courage and strength and athleticism come from to be all wrapped up in one animal. It is a miracle.
So let me ask you this. Do tracks run differently than Churchill Downs? Are there any tracks that are aligned to the type of trip these colts, fillies, or geldings might get at Churchill Downs? I know it's dirt. Can you compare it to other venues like Gulfstream Park, Aqueduct, or Oaklawn Park, or even Santa Anita? Is there any comparison between the surfaces?
Well, there's no comparison between the surfaces at Churchill Downs itself, quite honestly.
Why is that?
Well, because it's a victim of circumstance with where it is in the country, geography-wise. It's, many states have had quite the weather this winter, and Churchill gets it all year long. So they have to deal with sudden downpours and rain like you can't believe. And then that affects the track and how you maintain the track, what you can do to the track to get it back ready again. I mean, heck, I was just told it's supposed to rain now at Keeneland for opening week again and affect possibly the bluegrass. Now that's an extended forecast, so it could change, but let's not forget that last year they had to delay the bluegrass because of weather. Now, anybody that knows me and has talked to me, and I don't really have any secrets in this game, knows that I am a tremendous advocate of synthetic track racing. And for all the reasons I just mentioned, because I want consistency. I want a surface that is consistent, that is not dependent on the elements per se. Hey, Churchill Downs, I mean, I'll never forget. I was there for the golden era of Calvin Burrell. Calvin Burrell up the rail. Maybe that's what's going to happen this year. Somebody else up the rail at $100. Who knows? But dirt tracks, Felix, are biased. They're biased for the most part, and I don't like biases. To me, that's a factor. We don't need to have handicappers try to track. There's too many other things that I believe are more important to track. And it's not, quite honestly, it's not fair to the horse either. If you have a speed horse running on an anti-speed track, that's not fair to the horse. So anyway, by the way, the synthetic racetracks they had here in California, I watched them all. I watched them all evolve very closely. And early on in the show, believe it or not, there was I forget who said it, but early on in the show, when you said I think I've watched more races and more horses, I do believe now, than any human being perhaps in the game. And that is a blessing. I tell everybody, it's not me. I was just blessed enough to be able to watch workouts and races 24/7 now for going on 50 years. A blessing. So I was blessed to be able to learn this, to see it, to experience it. And when I saw what I saw with the synthetic track, I knew immediately that was going to be the future of racing, in my estimation, for many reasons. And don't look now, but it kind of is becoming that way. It's going to be all synthetic for the winter time. Turfway is all synthetic. Gulfstream wouldn't even be racing right now if they didn't have a synthetic track. And Gulfstream is the poster child for what I'm talking about. Just look at Gulfstream all year long. They would not be in business right now without their synthetic track.
Well, there is good news to what you just delivered, because our meteorologist from Hot Springs, Arkansas, Mary Rappolini, prior to you coming on, said it's going to be a Chamber of Commerce afternoon down at Oaklawn Park. Isn't that right, Mary, on Saturday? Trust me, it is. Toby, we'll let you fly, but it's always great having you on, my friend, a friend of many years. When we started the radio show back in Las Vegas in 1995, it was you, Bruno DiGiulio, and the late Ken Daniels, which we sort of rallied in the desert in Las Vegas. But I will talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us. And by the way, Toby, before we let you fight, do you have any selections in the Arkansas Derby coming up this week, or any selections at all?
Well, the Arkansas Derby, you have a horse called Renegade that's going to be the favorite. It's the kind of race where somebody's going to have to really improve to step into the picture. The Florida Derby is going to be the very interesting race because of the horse I was talking about, Nearly. And he's going to be put to the test because he's got two legitimate horses in there to beat with Commandment and Chief Wallaby. And they are trained by Brad Cox and Bill Mott. So look out there. That's going to be the race to win. And then out here at Santa Anita, we have our Santa Anita Derby coming up, the Bluegrass. There's still some major preps. They will take a shape here coming up in the next couple of weeks. So it's wide open right now. This is all a work in progress. And we'll be watching closely the next few weeks to see. My horse is Crude Velocity. That's the short answer to your question. I don't know if it's possible though, because like I said, Justify broke his maiden right around February 1st, and everybody said that was impossible. I don't know. I know the connections are going to try to do it. So on that angle, there is still a possibility that it could happen. So we'll see. But my horse is Crude Velocity. After that, it's Nearly. But whether they are going to make the starting gate, Nearly's going to probably have to run first, second. I don't know if third gets him in. So we're going to find out the answers to all those questions.
The bubble, to your asking or to your curiosity, is right around 25 right now. I think the 20th runner is listed with 25 points. So the Florida Derby is 150, 25, 15, and 10. And I would assume that the Wood Memorial is the same allotment of 150. So if you run first or second in the Wood Memorial, then most likely, well, not even most likely, you're definitely going to get a spot in that starting gate, and we'll see what happens. Bob Baffert went that route, like you said, with Justify going to the Santa Anita Derby, where that he had to win or run second to qualify for the Derby. And I think that's exactly what he did. I don't know if he won that race that afternoon or if he ran second, but he got enough points to get himself into the Derby gate. Do you remember that day? I'm sure.
I sure do. In fact, ironically enough, we won't open up that big bag of whatever you want to call it. But, as of right now, Justify is not the winner of the Santa Anita Derby. But you did not see that, Felix. He got disqualified. Anyway.
That was years later, though. That was years later through the court. But on that day,
not the Santa Anita Derby winner.
So I understand that, but did he win that day?
Let's say maybe illegally, because he is not the Santa Anita.
Rephrase the question. Who crossed the finish line first?
Well, there you go. See, we're in a court of law here. Now, anyway,
I just wanted to quickly interject. I can't even begin to tell you what a treat, what a pleasure, and what an honor it is to have a chance to share this time with you. Like I said, I've known who you were for all these years. I've never had a chance to meet you or talk to you. I just knew who you were. And thank you so very, very much for sharing your thoughts and your understandings. I don't know how much more appreciative the people should be to have a chance to hear you think out loud, because me personally, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed it personally.
Well, I can't thank you enough for the kind words. By the way, Felix, on the point system, you have like 6 races. Basically, if you run first or second, you're going to get in. And those races are all coming up right now. So the Wood, the Bluegrass, Arkansas Derby, Florida Derby, Santa Anita Derby. There's like 5 or 6 races coming up now where if you run first or second, you will get in. That's why the list right now, quite honestly, is not going to say a waste of time, but you're better off not even looking at it because it's going to get turned upside down.
Well, there's 7 prep races starting with the Florida Derby, Arkansas Derby, UAE Derby, the Bluegrass, the Santa Anita Derby, and the Wood next week, and the final one, Lexington. We must fly, Toby. I will check in with you after this podcast is completed. Thank you very much. I will bid you a very happy evening in Arkansas, Mary Rappolini, and thank you very much for joining us. We got Coach Miller. Coach Miller is going to be joining us here on the podcast, and he is the son, or actually his son is the head basketball coach at University of Texas, which plays Purdue tomorrow night. Now, being a young little gym rat in Western Pennsylvania, I met John Miller when he was a coach at a nearby high school in my hometown called Riverside. I went to Lincoln High School in Elwood City, and I learned everything and more from this one Coach John Miller. He has 6 state championships in the state of Pennsylvania at Black Hawk High School. He coached his son, Sean Miller, to 3 state championships. And then at a 14-year-old, or maybe even younger than that, he'll share with when he gets on with us. John Miller had his son perform dribbling basketballs on the Johnny Carson show. And Sean was the point guard as a freshman under Paul Evans, a great Pittsburgh team. And then he went on to coach. He coached Xavier. He was an assistant at Ohio State. He was the lead man at Arizona for 12 years and took 2 years off, and then went back to Xavier, and then got the head job this year at the University of Texas in Austin, and got them in the dance. 3 games in 3 nights, or three games in I guess a couple nights, because they played the play-in game, and then they had to travel to play a good BYU team, and then they took down a great Gonzaga offensive team. I don't know if Gonzaga was as good as we've seen them in the past, but still, Texas was a team that lost 5 out of their last 6. And I shared this with Coach Miller just a couple days ago. I said, quite frankly, they weren't good enough to get in the tournament per my eye, but it just goes to show you how a little momentum either way gets you back in. And Robert, I know you've been keeping an eye on March Madness. I bet you it's been really incredible.
There's nothing in this world more entertaining for a period of 3 weeks than the NC2A tournament. And the thing that's the most amazing, by the way, just to verify what you just saying, I just actually saw the film clip that you were referring to when Sean Miller walked on the stage with Johnny Carson and demonstrated his skills. And it made me think, as I just recently saw a video with Peyton Pritchard, the guy from the Boston Celtics. Sean Miller was as talented a ball handler at 14 years old. It's just amazing. So yes, your recollection is 1,000% correct. I just saw that video. And, when the tournament starts, everyone observes, has opinions and this and that. But the bottom line is once these games start to unfold, if anybody watched Vanderbilt and Nebraska play, that if you watch that game, and you're not a fan, you have to be a fan of the sport of basketball just watching that game. And now, there's been a lot of controversy with the NIL, and what does the NIL mean to college basketball? A lot of people say that the NIL is going to discourage the Cinderella teams from showing their presence in the NC2A tournament. That may be true, but the other side of the coin is we're about to see some amazing basketball in the Sweet 16, because there's some really, really good teams with some tremendous players. My observation is that the Arkansas game versus Arizona, that game could be, we're going to see a kid named Darius Akoff play for Arkansas, I don't think I've seen a better college basketball player play in a long time. So yes, Felix, I'm really looking forward to the Sweet 16.
These games, when you talk about the Vanderbilt final shot that went like 40, 50 feet to hit the backboard and was halfway down to win the game. And I mean, you can't get any closer than that shot. And then to see Iowa and Florida, I mean, with Iowa, something to be said about coaching. And we have seen the difference between a good coach and a lackadaisical coach. Ben McCollum came from like a Division II school and got Iowa into the Sweet 16, a team that I wouldn't have given you 16 cents that they would have even made the tournament during the regular season.
And guess what, Felix? His players are Division II players. He's an amazing story.
Yes, he is. Do we have
Drake-
Coach Miller yet? Is Coach Miller with us? Hope that he is. I know that
He just popped in right now.
There he is. We're talking about him. Coach Miller, my friend, welcome to Post Time. You're in Texas. I'm in California. Bobby G is in Los Angeles, and Anthony A is in Toledo, Ohio. Holy Toledo. How you doing, Coach?
Where does microphone go? Give me a second.
Are you there, Coach? We'll get you in. We'll cue you up and get you in. That's him. That's the handsome Coach John Miller, state champion at.
Uh-oh. He muted himself out.
Yep. Is he there? Coach, can you hear us?
Nope.
Got to get this fixed, this portion of the show. And it says that he is muted. So can we get him on and talk with him? But, I've watched every one of these games. I really have. And I think that one is more exciting than the other one. Coach, are you there? Tell me you can hear us, Coach. Let's see if we can get it, Ant.
He's got to unmute himself. Unmute
Okay.
yourself.
Can you send him, Coach? If you can hear us, you got to unmute your phone, and we'll bring you right in. So, can you unmute your phone? And I think that'll get us into the sound that we will have with you. So, when you look at these games tomorrow night, Iowa and Nebraska. Nebraska is favored in this game by 1.5. Arizona is 7.5 over Arkansas. Illinois and Houston, two of my great teams that, I'm going to be pained by one of them losing because I like both of them. Then we got St. John's and Duke, Alabama and Michigan, and MSU, Michigan State playing UConn. And Duke is favored by 6.5. Michigan is favored by 9.5. UConn is favored by 1.5, and Iowa State is favored by 4.5. That's the Sweet 16. And, you talk about NIL, naming, imaging, likeness. Each one of these 16 teams all do pretty well raising NIL money. We're going to try to get Coach Miller on again.
These kids can't afford to turn pro.
Well, they're getting so much money.
They're going to take a pay cut to go pro.
Yep. Coach, are you there? We can't bring him in. Can you? We got.
Do you have a cell phone number you could text him, Anthony?
No, I don't. There's something with his microphone. I can't.
Alrighty, but what I wanted to say is that there's a lot of coaching changes, and Hubert Davis was relieved of his head coaching position at the University of North Carolina. A lot of movement. The South Florida coach is going to to Providence. And Coach Miller's other son, Archie, is the head basketball coach at the University of Rhode Island. Coach, are you there? Can you hear us?
You should be.
I can hear you right now.
Oh, great, Coach. Thanks for joining us. Thank you very much. We were just giving you and giving thoughts about you having two sons coaching Division I basketball. The Longhorns, under Sean's first year, they've been pretty amazing, haven't they?
We're losing the feed. The feed's no longer. I can no longer hear you guys.
Yeah. Well, just tell us what you think about Texas and Purdue.
It's coming in and out right now.
All right. Well, we're just going to have to re-queue it up and get with you next week, Coach. Sorry about that.
Well,
sorry to to waste your time on this.
Right now, I can hear you.
All right. Now you can tell us about Texas and Purdue.
Okay. Well,
Coach,
it's going to be a very difficult game. I think Texas has to play at the very, very top of their game. You know, Braden Smith, tremendous. And they
lost the feed. All right. Just move him right, and we'll get back with Bobby G. But is there, I look at these 16 teams, and I look at each and every one of them, and I say, well, they're good. Yep, they're good. Yep, they're good. Yep, they're good. Few weaknesses. Iowa and Nebraska would be a cut below. St. John's and Duke. I love St. John's. I love the way Pitino coaches these kids. Michigan State and UConn. I don't know what to make of UConn. I don't think UConn is as good as they have shown. They beat a very, very half and half UCLA team over the weekend. Michigan has been very, very good all year long. Iowa State and Tennessee. Iowa State's been the team that I've been riding all year long. I think they're very good. Of the 16 teams, Robert, we got 5 minutes left. Who do you think gets it done tomorrow as well as Friday?
I have opinions on some games. Some games are very difficult to pick. We're not talking about against the point spread. We're talking about who advances. Because
yes.
my mind is wired to against the spread. I think St. John's has a shot to beat Duke. I definitely think they're worth taking points with. I think Arkansas is the most question mark team in my mind. I've never been a big fan of John Calipari, even though he's one of the most successful coaches of all time. I think Arizona is really special. Tommy Lloyd has struggled mightily when he gets to the tournament, but he's got a serious team. There's a kid named Braden Berries. That team is special. And I thought Donnie May, the guy that coaches Michigan, arrived on the scene as a coach when you were talking about coaching very quietly. He's one of the great young coaches in college basketball. I think Michigan is really special. They lost a key piece to their team, LJ Kaysen. But to answer your question as directly as I can, I don't know how the seedings work out, but I think Michigan and Arizona are the two best teams I've seen this year. I think Rick Pitino with St. John's is lying in the weeds. I know there's some other good teams in the tournament. I would say that I think Arizona cuts down the nets. I think Michigan has the second best chance. And if I were looking for a sleeper, I would take St. John's and Arkansas are the two sleepers. That's the way I see the big picture.
Not so fast, young man. Not so fast. The winner of Illinois-Houston wins it all, in my opinion. These are Houston's a bunch of thoroughbreds. They're well coached. They're well conditioned. And Illinois is very, very talented. Like I said moments ago, I don't know if if I'm going to be able to withstand the pain of seeing either Illinois or Houston lose tomorrow night, because I like both of these teams quite a bit. And this is going to be one terrific game. Houston currently a 3.5 point favorite in 139. Well, we wrapped up another episode of Post Time with Mary Rappolini joining us from Hot Springs, Arkansas, Oaklawn Park. Toby Terrell reporting in from Southern California. Bobby G from Los Angeles. We had half of Coach Miller there. He's in Houston, Texas. Might be bad internet connections down there in the Lone Star State. And I'm Felix Taverna. It's produced by Anthony A. out of our 50 Way Studios back in Toledo, Ohio. And the executive producer of Post Time is Craig Anthony Thompson from 50 Way Studios at that same location inside the beautiful city of Toledo, Ohio. 38 days remaining until the Run for the Roses, the Kentucky Derby. We'll be there every step of the way. This week, the Florida Derby, the Arkansas Derby, the UAE Derby. Are we going to see the potential Kentucky Derby winner emerge from these prep races? Next week, the Bluegrass,